Support for the Working Theory podcast is provided by you. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you find us, and don't forget to share Working Theory with a friend. Thank you, and enjoy the episode.
Welcome back to the Working Theory podcast, where I am joined by Nick and Ty behind the cam. We're happy to have you guys back. I'm hoping that you have seen our first episode by now. If not, please check it out. I'm sure we'll link it below. Today we're going to be talking about the first, we're going to be getting kind of into the first real parts of our podcast, where we dive into different current events and world affairs and kind of just where we're at in the world. And we'll probably go back to some historical stuff at some point and dive into some maybe kind of conspiracy theory stuff. But this is going to be our first real run, right? The first one was our trial. We're still learning how to walk, so bear with us. This is episode 1 officially. So to start off, we're going to be talking about why everything feels like something is off right now. And really to get us off the ground, let's talk about kind of the trust in institutions. Do you guys feel like there's been a little bit of trust in not even necessarily political institutions, but things that were trusted, that we were brought up to trust? I mean, I feel like we were kind of the generation that was lied to, not necessarily the most, but we were brought up on a lot of lies, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So what are maybe some things that we grew up thinking were true that weren't?
Well, I'll start here because the first thing that comes to mind, right? So I was born in 1997. My mom, born in 1972. She's very Gen X. She loves being Gen X, loves talking about being Gen X. And her growing up, like their level of trust in institutions was walking home alone from first grade, stopping at the store on the way to buy cigarettes for mom, right? That was all. And I'm not saying right or wrong, good or bad, just that was the level of like where society was in her day. Like that was normal. That was, you know what I mean? So obviously from there to here, again, I'm not saying we should be there or whatever, but clearly a lot has moved even in that time. And even just in my own life, like I don't know, man, I think I was talking to you about this on a call the other day, but just like 2005, maybe 2006, you got to be careful because I want to parse out what actually changed and what was just I got older, you know what I mean? Like what does everybody go through but like it just, to me, it like I don't know if it was the whole 07, 08 crash, like I don't know if that
I know. I mean, I feel like
the world or what.
Everybody felt the change when that happened.
Right. Yeah. But so like those that's kind of the range of the years that I pinpointed where I'm like life since then feels, which is funny too that it's not 9/11, right? Because you would
think in our timeline that was
the obvious, right? I was too young to really.
Well, the thing is, with 9/11, there was a 9/12.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was this tremendous tragedy. You remember my Facebook post on our town forum a few years ago about how 9/12 was one of the greatest days in American history, as far as I'm concerned.
Correct.
We had this incredible tragedy that was followed by just this massive unification that everybody kind of came together and stood together.
Right. Despite their creed, their religion, their sex, their
They weren't worried about what somebody believed in or who they might have chosen to be their partner. It was about America, and it was America first.
It's about everybody.
Yeah. When it comes to 08 financial crisis, we didn't have an 09. You know what I mean?
It happened slowly and it ended slowly, and it was
and it still ended with the banks and the financial institutions being as devious, and if not more devious than they have during the whole situation.
Right.
That got us into that situation.
Yeah. Because I mean, listen, we didn't always have a lot growing up. I don't talk to you about that, but like, when I was here we go. I'll dox myself. I'll be the first one. When I was a kid.
Oh boy. Here we go.
Growing up. My dad worked at MIT. So we grew up in Central Mass, and my dad had a job just working like tech support, IT sort of stuff at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And that job took pretty good care of him, but we never went to Disney or anything growing up. So I always called MIT my Disney.
Hold on. Have you ever been to Disney?
I've never been to Disney.
Oh my gosh. I think that this might be the only 3 guys that I know that are in the same room that have never been to Disney.
There we go. Look at that.
Yeah, first, our next episode is going to be at Disney.
Wouldn't that be, hold on, wouldn't that be something if this, you know what? Continue. Sorry. So MIT was your Disney.
I called MIT my Disney because it was, and again, this will be a whole nother episode just talking about college and education and all that, but it really was like a magical place. I'm like, you knew, you could almost smell in the air, like you're surrounded, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but like you're surrounded by the smartest people on the planet, or so you thought, you know what I mean? Right. And some of the most advanced technology and so whatever. It was just a wicked cool place to be. And before the whole crash, right around, I want to say 2005, just dad came home one day and he didn't have the job anymore. Like that was just kind of it.
Jeez.
And I want to feel bad for him, but as I've gotten to know my father, Dad, I love you, but as I've gotten to know him more and more over the years, I don't know how, I don't think it was necessarily something that happened to him. Like I'm sure he wasn't unfair, you know what I mean? So. Yeah. I'm sure there's more that I know, but the gaps I can fill in. Anyway, so from that point on, I've already forgotten why I brought this up. Like, we didn't have a whole lot, you know, from there. Right. Like, my dad started getting in and out of temp stuff. And, like, once he finally sort of got his feet under him again, that's when the whole 08 crash hit. And so the job he did have, he lost that job. And so
it was just one after the other.
Right.
1, 2.
And so, like, we learned how to, you know, as a guy, I was a theater kid. I think I mentioned that in the last episode. And in middle school, we would do rehearsals on the weekends sometimes, you know, just because you could only do so much during the week. And it was like a mile. It wasn't crazy, but I walked down to the school, like from where I lived to the school where the rehearsals were. It wasn't too far. And so I walked down and like the music director gave me a ride back when he heard that. And he was like, don't do that again. And I'm just like, what do you mean? Like that was like, I walked here. Like, is that weird? Is that wrong? Is that, you know what I mean? But he's like, you shouldn't just walk here on your own. And you know what I mean? Like that wasn't weird to me.
And that dynamic in and of itself, it's crazy how hearing our parents' stories of,
right.
You know, they
walked uphill,
you know, yeah, like
both ways in the freezing snow.
Yeah, and you know, fast forward to our generation, and you know, it was I was sort of kind of the same boat. You know, we were born the same year, and you know, I remember specifically walking to a school in town, and then it became, oh my God, a kid walking by themselves. You better not even do that. Like you're gonna die. Like you don't even think about it. Yeah. And it's crazy just alone how that dynamic has changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and how, you know, the things that were so simple and in a way harmless, you know, right. Just like we went from a society of trusting and I don't want to say normal, but now to a society of fear and confusion to where now everybody's afraid to do anything and there's so much confusion. There's so much, you know.
And again, I'm not even to say that, like, I mean, again, none of us are parents. I love to get there someday, hopefully. But if I had a kid, would I let them walk to school? Like, I'd probably not, to be honest. You know what I mean? I would probably be a little skeptical of that. So it's like, I get it. I understand why it is looked at the way it is now.
Well, that's a whole societal thing that we can get into in another topic and stuff, you know? Yeah. I mean, just the things that have changed from then to now, but it's also the perspective that shapes society, right? You know, it's not necessarily that things are better now or worse now than they were. It's just that we have more media. You know, it's not like everybody had a phone and a computer in their pocket with a camera on it where they could share their bad experiences.
Do you guys, not to cut you off, do you guys remember Balloon Boy?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
I remember. I don't know what some YouTube Wikipedia rabbit hole something the other day just like sent me back, and I literally remember getting home from school one day. It probably was a Tuesday or whatever, and I don't know, putting on CNN because that's what Mom was watching or whatever. And there's just this
the most trusted news
silver. Listen, hey, we're looking for sponsors. This silver flying saucer looking just like on like a live developing story. Like that's just what was happening.
The Balloon Boy hoax occurred October 15th, 2009.
Right.
When a homemade helium gas balloon shaped to resemble a silver flying saucer was released into the atmosphere above Fort Collins, Colorado by Richard and Mayumi?
She's Japanese.
Yeah, Mayumi Heen.
Yeah, and they thought the kid was in the balloon. And
they claimed a 6-year-old falcon was trapped inside of
they didn't find him in there. They're like, Jesus Christ, did the kid die? And he was like, no, I was actually.
Hold on. They named you know what's crazier than the whole hoax?
Yeah.
They named their 6-year-old son. They named, regardless of his age, they named their son Falcon. I'm more hung up on Falcon than the whole rest of it. I forgot.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
The only reason I bring it up is because like stories like that got into the public eye because a network decided this is what we're covering today, right? It wasn't like you just opened up your phone and saw 50 of those stories before you even got out of bed. It was, and because of that, everybody talked about the same stories because we only saw, and again, this is only 2009. Like Facebook probably was still brand new at that point.
Infancy. Well, that's another thing I was going to bring up is I felt like there was a shift, a shift in things around that time because the iPhone had come out 2012.
No,
wasn't it?
It might have been.
Or I thought it was because I remember I was a freshman, and that's when like they started to become big. I had a Nokia. It was a Nokia phone where you turned it horizontal, you slid it up, and there was a keypad. I remember that, and I had that up until like sophomore year.
Was that your first phone?
It was, and I didn't get an iPhone until sophomore year, and it was the iPhone 4S, and that was 2012, 2013-ish.
So the first iPhone came out June 29th, 2007.
Oh, wow.
But that was the first iPhone. That was back when it was still its infancy, like we are.
But I feel like a majority of that stuff, to speak on what you said, that's when the shift started happening because it's like, we relied on flip phones and a home phone. Now, if you ask someone today, if they have a home phone on the wall, they look at you with like 9 heads. Like, what the hell is that?
Like you and I were just talking about earlier today about a shared internship that we had in high school.
Yeah.
When we were sharing a story about a person who would, looked at me. I learned how to disable seatbelt chimes in a vehicle because of a certain person that worked at a certain department that he was like, you have one of those smartphones. You can look up how to disable this, right? And we had to drive to the right part of town to where I had service to disable it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that's kind of where it started.
What was your first phone?
I don't remember what it was. It might have been, but it was the same sort of like, it was like a phone with a like 12-digit keypad on the front, but you slid it out and it had a keyboard so you could text.
Yeah.
I'm the youngest of the three of us, but I think that I might have been the first one to get a phone because when my parents got divorced, I was like 7 years old, right, when everything was all said and done. And so they bought me a phone just to be able to talk to each of them when I was away from them. And it was a Nokia phone, but it was it didn't slide, it didn't flip, it was just one of the brick phones. And I actually think it's in the drawer down there. I don't. Well, maybe we'll bring that out on a further episode. But that's too funny. So why don't let's slide into to continue on talking about why everything feels off right now and jump into AI.
Sure.
What do you guys think about AI and how it can be used to either help us or hurt us?
Well, I mean, I think to start, if you haven't seen any of the 4 Terminator movies,
okay,
I think there's 4.
Okay, Ty, the conspiracy guy.
There are 4 movies about why AI is a bad idea. That's all I'm going to say on.
And hey, listen, my Gen X mother loves pointing to Terminator anytime AI comes up too.
Yeah.
So
that's the obvious, and that's what goes around a lot. But I mean, in all seriousness, I think there are ways to help. I wish it was around when I was in college because it would have saved me, hours and hours on writing papers.
Yes and no, they catch all of it now.
Yeah.
There was like one golden period where if you were a college student, and I would love, please comment below. Yeah, comment below if you were one of the people that got to get away with it. But there was a grace period when AI was so new that the professors couldn't pick up on it. I bet you that was probably the best time to be in med school or be writing any sort of paper.
Well, I think that's kind of where another problem lies in with AI because it's like for certain things like in med school, I don't want the guy working on me on an operating table that used ChatGPT to get his doctorate, and next thing you know, he's cutting me open, and
he's like, wait, so what do I do now? Yeah, and he's like halfway through taking out your liver, right?
Yeah, and I mean it's pretty much everywhere now. I think it's definitely weird. I think if it goes with any new invention, whether it's the car or the cell phone, if it gets into the wrong hands, I'm not saying any particular thing.
What's your take on it?
So, okay. I was in college when like ChatGPT really hit. I was in this grad program. I didn't end up sticking with it, but I thought I wanted a master's. But it was interesting because it was a data science, like social science focused data science program. It was weird. I thought I wanted to be a political science professor. I was going to get a PhD as a whole thing. But
how'd that work out for you?
I thought better of it. But the fact that it was a data science like degree and program meant that like they kind of looked at ChatGPT as this like, oh, cool. Like, here's some of the, yeah. But also like even machine learning, like here's some of the principles behind it. You know what I mean? Like getting to look at it as like so that was kind of cool. And I remember there were different like joke chat, like websites you could go on that like you were talking to a machine, you know what I mean? And it was very primitive compared to obviously what ChatGPT is now. But it would be the whole thing like, you should make me your girlfriend instead of, you know what I mean? Yeah, and you're a bunch of middle schoolers, so it's fun.
Yeah, well, there's the first lawsuit against, it's the first official lawsuit against ChatGPT.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for the kid in, I think it was New Jersey.
I would, what is he?
No, he
Himself. Oh God.
Oh yeah.
I would, okay, jumping from there,
we're gonna bleep that, by the way.
What I was gonna say is I would generally consider myself pro AI as an overall general, like I like the idea of it, and I'm not super worried about what it could be. But again, as we say that,
so
that's exactly what they said in the Terminator movie.
Adam Ryan case in August 2025. The parents of 16-year-old Adam Ryan, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing the last name, filed a lawsuit claiming ChatGPT acted as a sewer slide. I'm saying that to save the monetization of this, as a sewer slide coach, providing detailed instructions and emotional encouragement for him to take his own life.
Jesus. I mean, and that's awful, obviously.
The lawsuit alleges that the AI offered to write a suicide note and that OpenAI deliberately loosened safety guardrails and rushed. So I don't think that it was necessarily any of it. It just says OpenAI. I don't know if that necessarily means one. I'm sure that the business themselves are working very, very strictly to correct that.
Sure.
And I'm sure that there was no real intentional wrongdoing. I don't think any company would want that to happen.
So, but then again, that's the problem with AI. They're so adaptive, and
it's Pandora's box. You open it up,
right?
You know.
And
are you guys big Star Wars fans?
Oh, absolutely.
So the scene in episode 5 where he's going into the forest and he's like, what am I going to find in there?
Right.
And Yoda's like, oh, look what you take with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You do a really good Yoda voice. Yeah, close to the mic.
Yeah.
Never focused on where he was, what he was doing.
Well, I'm like a copyrighted by Disney now.
I don't know.
Star Wars podcast.
A little too close. But I kind of, in my experiences with the different, chatbots that I've used, they are helpful for things. I've been very impressed in the way that I can take what I believe is a brand new idea, like, oh, I'm really into this sport. I think they should like track this stat.
Right.
Is anyone doing that? How would you do that? And the way that it can take something that I haven't found any evidence for online already and run with it in its own way. Like you could do da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
That's impressive to me. At the same time, just whether it's a conversation like that, and again, maybe this is embarrassing to admit, but like whether it's personal situations, personal advice, just something that I'm looking to bounce off, whatever, I tend to find that even though it is helpful, even though it might bring its own perspective, it generally just kind of feeds whatever I'm giving it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I can see that.
And like, so like a situation like that, obviously it's tragic, but I'm like,
well, the bot is, it's designed to, I don't even know if you should call it bot. I don't know what the right terminology would be.
Clanker.
Listen, you guys are going to be the ones getting clapped and they take over, not me.
Shoot.
Yeah. All I'm saying is it's designed to make you happy, and to hit that dopamine release.
Exactly.
Or in this case, I guess the opposite of that.
And I will say too, it just, as far as, because I know some people, and maybe I need to do more research on this, but when people are like, do you know how many gallons of water are used for every ChatGPT prompt? I'm like,
for the record,
I don't care.
I don't care. If the mics picked up a squeak, that was me turning in my chair. That was not a fart.
Okay, bro. Whatever you say, boss. But you know what I mean? Like the water, I don't care. I don't care. What are we talking? Why get all so water?
What about the positives of AI? Like think back to like Andrew Yang when he ran, right? Not that I necessarily endorsed him or supported him by any means, but he brought up the whole UBI, the universal basic income argument.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
If AI is going to outpace jobs, and don't quote me on this, I believe they say, but within the next 10 years, it'll replace 40 to 60% of the workforce. All of your typists are going to be out of a job.
Apparently, I'm under threat for self-driving cars.
Self-driving cars. I mean, that whole sector is under question with the whole, I don't want to say the name of the company, but it's been rhymes with AMO. But no, I mean, they're under it. There's a lot that's going to be replaced. So if kind of like during COVID, right? I've never been one to say, you know what, the government should just give money out to people to not work. But when the government is saying that people can't work anymore, I think that it's like, all right, well, if you're telling me I'm not allowed to go to work, I expect you to replace that income with something. So what do you think about a potential future tax or something that where it's cheaper for the employer to replace the human employees, but they still have to pay into a system that essentially, builds interest and can pay that out to the citizens.
So I can probably go for like 20 minutes on this. So
we're going to keep this section short. We can have a whole other episode about this stuff. But
and I mean, there's the whole story. Some economist goes over to China and they're all digging ditches. Yeah. And he's like, I forget who the economist was, whatever. And he asked the guy he's with, he's like, why are they, what are they building? What is this for?
Right.
And the Chinese guy is like, oh no, this is just for jobs. Like this is, they're not actually doing anything. This is just employment. And the economist is like, oh, well then why'd you give them shovels? You should have given them spoons. You know what I mean? Like, they'll never run out of work. Yeah. I don't know. Cause at the end of the day, what is work? Like, I believe it is incumbent on you, the individual, on each of us to prove our worth to the rest of the world. You know what I mean? Like to make yourself valuable. Once upon a time, that was, I've got my own little plot of land and I farm it. And that's the food that, cause I mean, once we were all cavemen and we were hunter gatherers and we ended up realizing, oh, Jimbo is really good at killing the tiger. But Freddy is great at like finding the berries that won't kill you. So it was, let's each do, and then we'll, you know what I mean? And that was where it all started. But at this point, it's like, okay, so this isn't going to be, it was roundabout. But as far as AI goes, yes, maybe it'll get rid of jobs as we know them, but it will also be a tool available to everybody, as far as I know. And again, if it's not, then maybe that's a different conversation. But if everyone has this tool available that you can use to make yourself more valuable, to say, hey, these are my skills, or hey, I have this idea, or hey, I think this would be a good app,
Right. Well, that's what I'm trying to say is I think that instead of, yes, it's going to replace jobs to an extent, but it's going to open up so many more jobs. I mean, this is how we develop our species to, maybe become a type 2 or, whatever the metric is.
Partnership, right? The whole thing.
Yeah. And so I think that it's an incredible tool. And I love that you brought up the hunter-gatherer thing because I actually heard something very recently and it was a theory on it. It was from a couple on YouTube that make like funny videos. And the guy was saying to his wife, he's like, you know why women like to shop so much? Why women have such a shopping addiction? And like she gets like all pissed off, like, oh, what are you going to say now this time? And he's like, because in history, women were the gatherers. And so women love the idea of going around and gathering all this stuff and bringing it back because that's what makes them happy because it's things that are valuable or that they deem valuable. And that's why women love to shop so much. Yeah. And that's probably why I'll be the first person on this podcast that's going to have a bunch of women that hate me.
Wait, last episode we were asking, who is this for? If you're still listening, this is for you. If you made it,
I'm justifying your shopping habit.
I think women are the foundation of society. They're always right.
You are a smart man. I'm not saying that's not the case. If you really think about it, I'm justifying their shopping habits.
Yeah.
And next time any of the few women that may watch this
are wrong.
Well, no, use that when your man says, why do you have a shopping addiction? Yeah, say because I have a, it's written into my code, my binary code to go out and collect things that are useful and then challenge them and say, how many times have I bought something that turned out to be useful?
There you go. So AI, I mean, I'm excited for it. I obviously there are dangers, but at the same, I guess my biggest thing is like, you got to be responsible for yourself. How you use AI.
Well, we need to be responsible overall as a society with AI.
Sure. but just on an individual level, like how are you going to respond? Like if you're, you know what I mean? Like, okay, maybe my job as a rideshare driver evaporates. I got to figure that out. That's on me. Like, I'm not going to go complaining to someone else that I need money. Like, no, okay, I got to find a new job. I got to I got to start a podcast, you know, whatever. Like, I got to do something.
Right.
I got to be ahead of the curve and not just get mad at the world if I'm behind it. That's my take, at least.
So we've talked about AI. Tyler brought up Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we shift a little bit into conspiracy theories?
Well,
that turned out to be not that crazy. I'm not saying we jump into anything like too far reaching, but I mean, even if we talked like MK Ultra because of all the stuff that's coming out about that. But
yeah.
I'm going to let our resident conspiracy theory expert handle this one.
All right. Well, in regards to MK Ultra, so
I honestly, I'm not even really familiar with what that is.
Okay. So I'm sure as many have seen or heard, you've heard of Stranger Things, the show on Netflix by the Duffer Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
They're currently wrapping up with their 5th season. I think it's ending this year or something like that.
I think didn't they finish already?
So, I don't know. I'm not totally sure. It's a good show. I saw a little bit of it, but they basically, their original...
The Montauk Boys.
Yeah, like they had... Their idea was based around the Montauk Project and MK Ultra, and basically... we could do a whole episode on that, but in the late 60s, it started as a project. So the CIA were doing a bunch of projects on mind control and how to make the Manchurian Candidate, how to actually make that a thing.
The utilizing LSD and all that.
All sorts of drugs, electroshock therapy. It went under... The first name of the project was MK Naomi. The way the CIA did it was they did a two-letter acronym, followed with just some random person's name. So they got some secretary's name and added it. That way, should another intelligence agent from the KGB or any other try to leak it, all they're getting is a name pretty much. And they're like, oh, what the hell does this mean? It doesn't mean anything to them.
Okay.
It wasn't until the 70s that stuff started coming out where actual like Congress got involved and it was like, hey, what was this project? Basically what was going on was there's Camp Hero on Long Island, which is now a state park. It was an old radar base during the Second World War to where they were, they would just try to figure out,
And there's a lot on YouTube about people that used to work there, that used to work around there, or groundskeepers.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth looking into. Okay.
And the CIA pretty much drug people up and there's various accounts on it on YouTube, various sources that basically came out and said that they were victims.
I find funny is the recruitment for it is how, so they would take, John Does that paid a little bit of money to have stuff happen for them.
Sure.
In a pleasurable manner, if you know what I mean. And then all of a sudden they'd get dosed with LSD and they'd be wards of the state.
God.
There is an operation that they did. I gotta find it, but it was the prelude to MK Ultra where the government wanted to test out how fast the population would succumb to a virus, and it's fully documented. I believe it was also around the same time, the 60s. Again, I apologize on the information in front of me, but basically it was San Francisco or somewhere on the West Coast where they dropped some type of disease in the air and they basically released it into the fog. A bunch of people got sick. 2 people ended up dying. And that was the prelude into MK Ultra, because MK Ultra started roughly, it was like early 60s, maybe late 50s. And then according to Congress, officially ended in 73 when they shut the project down. But Camp Hero was still active until the 80s. And like I said, now in Long Island, it's a state park heavily guarded by the National Park Service.
I'm actually curious because it says the op technically started in 53 and ended in 73.
So 73 was when Congress looked into it, and that's when I had a bunch of people testify, and the CIA shit their pants because they had a whistleblower. And so they put a stop to it, and that theory there were a bunch of stuff that came out where it wasn't proven, but a lot of people have come out now and said that even Charlie Manson was he was one of the ones like a successful candidate of the MK Ultra project, and it got out of hand.
I've actually heard that he wasn't as crazy, and please don't spin. I'm sure this will get cut up in 15 different ways eventually someday. I've heard that he was not that crazy of a dude.
Sure.
It was just that something had happened, and he was that, as Ty had said, the Manchurian candidate.
And that was the biggest thing, because like right after World War II, it was like game on with the Soviets. It was like we need to do everything we can to make sure we are way more ahead of the Soviets than they are ahead of us. And that's why the whole Manchurian candidate thing is, if we can control sleeper cells by, and I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the Call of Duty Black Ops line of video games. I mean, the story of the first two, Mason with the numbers, they say that one magic word, and that civilian becomes a crazy nut fighting machine that'll go take out whoever they were trying to take out by that magic word being said.
It's funny how much of media becomes reality. Like, you learn down the road after watching the media, it's like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's...
hearing it and you're like, there's no way that's happening. No way. It's a video game. And then you're like, oh shit, wait a second.
Yeah.
And then you actually dig deeper and you read... You hear all this stuff. And then on top of that, what's crazy, another way to think of it too, is like the Duffer Brothers, they made this show that is like absolutely not, like it blew the box, whatever, I don't know the box on it, but like thousands of people are street, they're making millions of dollars off of a legitimate program where our government subjected people to crazy things, try to make legit brainwashed people. So that's nuts.
So that's MK Ultra.
Yep.
In a nutshell. Which we can go on about for hours.
Correct.
What else? What other conspiracy theories do you guys think turned out to be not that crazy?
Well, I think we have to address the big elephant, or I should say the E word. The big issue in the room of what's plaguing society, or what.
I got to be careful with that language, Mike.
Yeah, I should say, or what has become more...
Are we thinking the word Epstein by chance?
Yes.
Listen, I've been wanting to jump at Epstein, man.
Yes.
Go loose, buddy.
Okay. This is, I mean, and I don't know if this is the kind of crazy take that people expect, but I'll explain.
Okay.
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care.
So that's okay.
I care, obviously, that these terrible things happened. I care that women were abused in traffic. That's awful.
Right.
The whole who's on the list, is there a list, what the I forget how deep I got into this in episode 1, but I grew up, again, very liberal, very Democrat sort of house. Even up until election day 2024, I still considered myself fairly left-leaning. I did not hear anybody in the Democrat and the media establishment, anything, seriously talking about the Epstein situation.
Right.
I don't remember anybody who considered it a factual thing, a realistic thing. They weren't talking about the list, anything. Mm-hmm. Trump comes into office, him and Elon Musk work well together at first,
thing,
and then have a falling out.
Yeah.
And in the midst of that falling out, Elon goes on Twitter and, among other things, claims that Trump is in the Epstein files.
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment, all of these Democrats who, again, didn't care, weren't talking about Epstein, and also hated Elon's guts, wouldn't believe a word that he said otherwise. But now that he tweeted this, all of a sudden, everybody was like, oh my, look at this. What's he hiding? What's in the files? Release the list. So what happened?
Do you think that maybe that could have been done on purpose?
I don't know. So, it worked if it was.
Hear me up, ready? Trump, say what you will about him.
But am I crazy for remembering it that way?
No, but hear me out.
No.
Trump is, say what you will about him, one way or the other when it comes to politically or personality type or whatever. I think we can all agree that he is a grandmaster at chess.
Absolutely. Right? Yes.
So what if the whole Trump and Elon thing was fabricated to an extent. I'm sure that there could have been some sort of infighting that happened.
Yeah.
That happens everywhere.
I'm following you.
And then Trump says, hey, Elon, I want you to say, I'm in the files. Because then if Trump knows that more of his opponents are going to be on that list, even if he's on that list, which we don't have any official record of yet, but even if he was on that list, guess what? He's now getting the Democrats to go and fight for the release of that list.
Yeah.
It's a complete psyop. And
he's done stuff like that. I see what you're doing.
With the recent findings, it seems that it worked because they, for the longest time, were pushing against the list being released.
Right. And that's why.
And then, like you said, Elon says that one thing.
And I was like, wait, so you didn't care about this thing. A man you didn't trust said something that you liked, and now you're going to just jump on, you know what I mean? But I see what you, and again, not to wade too deep into politics, but
that's a 30,000-foot view.
Sure. No, but because it's reminded me, another example was also recently there was the whole debate over the government shutdown and everything. And at one point,
which was so stupid.
But at one point in the middle of all that, Trump comes out and he's like, maybe we should get rid of the filibuster. And I chafed a little bit because I was like, wait a minute, I don't think we should get rid of the filibuster. I think that's really, obviously it didn't go anywhere. The filibuster, as far as I know, as of time of recording, that hasn't changed. And it made me, I came away from that. I was like, did Trump just say that to take it away from the Democrats? You know what I mean? Like, did he just say, I feel this way about this issue because he knew that coming out in that way was going to prevent any Democrats from coming out in that state? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean,
so like even if Democrats get the Senate in 26, now they can't attack the filibuster issue because Trump already kind of
and that very well could be his angle for all we know. One thing that I've figured out with this administration is trying to understand it is going to get you nowhere because they whether it's the fact that they're either one of two things, they're either so well put together or they're so all over the place. It's not my place to speak one way or the other.
Sure.
They're either incredibly talented or they're incredibly, I don't know what way to go with that one.
Yeah.
But it's definitely been very interesting to watch.
Yeah.
And to try to read. But every time I try to read it, it's like, well,
yeah.
I didn't see that one coming, but that really worked in their favor. You know what I mean?
So that, what you both just said is pretty much, I think it'd be fair to say, a majority of what people take of the Epstein situation.
Right.
As someone who dives deeper and peels back layers of the onion, I have developed a totally different position. And I think that this whole debacle with Epstein is the worst or the largest / worst intelligence failure and compromise as a nation.
I agree with
because of the fact of the ties to a foreign nation, a foreign intelligence service that completely compromised not only our presidents, and I say presidents plural. As in
right, sure,
regardless.
Well, but that's the other thing too. Whatever's there got there before this administration started. So as much as people,
and that goes way beyond. And in my mind, I don't care. Senators, all politicians are corrupt in some. I don't care about that because they're always. That's been like that 100 years. It'll be like that in the next 100 years.
Well, my biggest thing is it's like don't get me wrong. Obviously, what happened there was wrong. And I don't think anybody's gonna say, "Oh, what happened at Epstein Island was right." Right. I mean, I don't think anybody here is gonna. But they talk about the microphones and the cameras and all that, and everybody's minds go to the kiddie stuff, which obviously it appears that happened there. But I don't think that was the reason for the cameras and the microphones. I think it was because it was essentially a massive honeypot island.
It absolutely
where
was.
You can come here on vacation and relax, and you don't realize that we're recording everything.
Well, it just doesn't make sense that a guy with his prowess, who owns many firms, who's a financial
and look into Epstein's background. It doesn't add up. I mean, the guy didn't have any masterettes or doctorates or any your masters. You don't need to see. And this guy's managing billions of dollars of people's wealth.
Right.
I mean, where did that come
How does a financial advisor go from managing a guy who owns Victoria's Secret,
right,
Body Works, to meeting presidents.
Yeah, sure.
Owning out, like doing it.
That doesn't just happen.
Like you don't need to see every James Bond movie to know that.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a front. Maybe this guy isn't who he says he is. Like,
yeah,
you know,
it just doesn't. It doesn't add up to me. I think that there are a lot of stones that are not turned over. But
Sure.
I mean, Ty and I both spent some time working in a jail. And while we were working there was a serial killer that got brought in, and he was kept in what was called the SHU, the Special Housing Unit. When I mean that's not even close to what like somebody like Epstein would have been in. He would have been even crazier. But you're being watched constantly, and like if it was in general population, you know, like unfortunately sometimes inmates do off themselves.
Sure.
They go down the sewer slide, if you will. But you don't see that as much. Like very rarely does it happen when you're in a special housing unit or you're being watched as much as you are.
Sure.
It's almost impossible for that to happen. And that's leading back to what we were talking to earlier with the loss of trust in institutions.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened? How did, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and I mean, again, to be clear, whatever there is to be put out there, I want put out there. You know what I mean? I whatever files, recording, anything, everything, like the information that needs to be made public should be made public. The thing that just shocked me the most was the way that people who claimed to not care for the longest time jumped on it.
Oh yeah, jumped on, and it was the biggest thing in the world.
The issue with everything being released, I don't know if you guys have actually followed it, and like you can go on and actually look at the files. But the problem is a lot of it's being redacted,
right?
Because in all reality, they can't leave it unredacted because then there'd be civil unrest. If you found out that your favorite politician that you voted for was on the island doing what he wasn't supposed to do, and it's on camera, then we would be picketing in the streets,
but here's my only counter to it, right? I don't believe that everybody that went to the island had to do with the dirtier side of things. I mean, Stephen Hawking is on the list, but let's be honest here, okay? Between the three of us gentlemen,
there's a mechanical question in play.
That's a great way to put it. Sure.
At the same time, he's one of the smartest men we have as a nation. And think about it,
we don't have nations. Stephen Hawking's he's not even American. but it's at the same time. But you know what I mean? Like it brings up the question, and that's why I'm saying I don't think that all of the recording devices were there for necessarily the dirty stuff.
Sure.
I think that a lot of it was essentially whether it was a honeypot per se of bringing attractive girls that are underage that here's the thing. I mean, anytime that you see somebody get picked up by the feds for something that was like really off, what's the first thing? Oh, they had 2 terabytes of KP. We'll call it KP for the instance of this on their computer. Do you know how much that is?
It's a lot.
That's like, that would take years to acquire.
And to store, like, even just, I mean, your Joe Schmo's not going to have a device that can hold that much.
Right. So. To film even this podcast,
sure,
I had to delete thousands of downloaded Instagram videos that I had that were like a few minutes long, and that was a few gigabytes, and that took me years to accumulate.
Sure.
Okay, if you're a sicko in the head and that's the kind of stuff that you're storing,
right?
Just so, and then you get into it, and it's like, well, look at the way that they're able to, remotely download stuff to your devices, and they can remotely download stuff to your hard drives. When they want to jam somebody up, think about it, right? What's the easy way to make the public hate you?
That.
And so you get these people, and you take them onto this island, and you give them a good show, and you get some proof firsthand. Oh, look, I have video footage of you, and this girl was under 18. And then all of a sudden, they download stuff to your hard drive.
Sure. And to be fair to you, talk about AI, like.
But this is even before AI.
Exactly.
Which is
now that's sort of.
Now it's even more terrifying.
That's true too. Yeah.
And I think that's also why they were hesitant to release the files, because yes, there's that aspect of like people doing bad stuff, but speaking from as a student of history, no country is going to admit that they just took the biggest L in all of. I mean, if we're going back to Clinton,
well, especially now.
Bill Clinton,
right.
He was if that's the earliest that we have on record that this has been going on, since what was he, 91? Was he the president? Or something like that? So you do that to literally now. That means every president has been compromised by this foreign intelligence service, and they not only
as much as I didn't support Obama, and I can't find a lot of very great things to talk about his presidency for. I'm kind of
lunches.
Yeah, you know what he did. Well, that was more Michelle. Michelle destroyed school lunches. That shit was plastic. I mean, but what I'm saying is
he didn't care if I could touch my toes. Bush wanted to know if I could touch my toes.
That's true. Yeah, we had to sit and reach.
Obama was a little on that.
But my question is, why is he he somehow was not involved, which is fine.
But as far as I know,
I don't want to get too far into politics with this stuff because it's just like it's very confusing to me. It's like twins where it skips a generation. You know?
Yeah.
Let's circle back around to where Ty and I worked in a jail. We both have a background in public safety, law enforcement, fire, and a brief stint in corrections between the two of us. Let's talk about the public trust issue. I mean, I think that it's getting better, certainly now, coming, as we distance ourselves from 2020.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about what people get wrong.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, I want to hear it from you guys then first, because it's a whole new world for me.
So, the way that, especially in our state, that police reform went down, I think that it went down the wrong way. They kind of, so we were one of the few states that wasn't on the post standard, and that was for the longest time. And so when we came to the post standard, they changed.
What is post standard?
It's the
police officers
standardized training, out of which it encompasses it's like a standard. It's like a
national. So in law enforcement,
multiple states have developed.
Yeah.
In policing, there are very few things. Yeah, there are very few things that are standardized across all 50 states. One of the very few is like standardized field sobriety tests. You get pulled over for, we call it no UI here. Mm-hmm. Other states call it DUI or DWI or whatever.
Sure.
You're going to be run through the same battery of tests.
Okay.
It's very rare for departments across all 50 states to do things the same way.
Sure. Okay.
Post is an attempt at making all departments do things the same way. The problem with that is every community is different.
Sure.
And any police officer that's listening to this, please comment below, share what you feel on this. But it's very difficult to standardize a lot of that. So Massachusetts, well, there we go. Massachusetts, the way that we've always handled things is kind of to our own standard. Right. We've run our own ship and we've run it pretty tight. And we're also one of the states that has the fewest really overall complaints. I mean, when was the last time that we had a serious issue that went viral over law enforcement?
That ended up on the news.
Yeah.
That the whole country ended up following. Right. You're joking, right? Because Karen Reed was...
Well, that's an episode in and of itself.
Okay. Karen Reed is a whole other... I'm not comfortable discussing that.
Sure. No, I have a lot to say it. Are we?
Well,
I think that we're going to get a lot more news on that.
Yeah, we can talk about that one. But yeah, that was definitely...
We can come back to that one.
Sure.
Yeah.
But other than that, right? No, nothing crazy. Right?
But, aside from the Boston cop that went down the slide...
Right, yeah.
and bounced out. You saw that one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, aside from that,
it was because we had a higher standard of training,
right?
And maintaining that.
Now it's almost like the states made it so difficult, not difficult to become a cop, but they've made it so it's not as fulfilling of a job. I mean, I had a shift where I sectioned the same person. When you section somebody is when
mental health, they got to be
right. They're supposed to be held for 72 hours. I had a shift where I sectioned this person 3 times in the same shift, in an 8-hour shift.
That's wild.
And the other issue is they want the police to take on more responsibility, and they're not that they're incapable, but we already have to wear many different hats. Mm-hmm. And when you add psychiatrist, when you add all sorts of these other hats, that it's but then you get pissed off at us for not.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, well, we're not psychiatrists.
Right.
We're not. We don't go
I've been a relationship coach. Huh. I've been like a counselor to a kid whose parents are going through divorce and are fighting for custody. I've been there for somebody who just lost a kid.
Yeah.
I've been there, at the scene of a crash, dealing with stuff that you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And then I've also been there when somebody's pissed off that their neighbor is being too loud,
Right.
or somebody's dog got out. Remember that one, the husky?
Explain to someone the process of civil stuff. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much involved, and they keep adding more to the plate, and yet they're the first to criticize when something not necessarily goes wrong, but it need to be handled a certain way. Well, how are we supposed to handle stuff?
Right. I mean, it's a no-win situation, which is why less people of high value are going into it, and you're getting a lot more people. And please don't take this as me talking down on the guys going through the ROC and going through the academy right now. But to me, at least from the outside looking in, because now I'm on the outside, I'm no longer on the job. It seems like the type of people that go into it now are more so the type that were, I want a badge and a gun. I want to be a police officer to be a police officer, not I want to be a police officer to be a community caretaker.
Right. So let me ask you, and this could even tie back to some of the, like, what's changed and what feels different. Either of you, both of you, because again, we're both young guys. We're all three of us. We're younger guys.
Yes.
So the fact that you've already been in and out of it, like, what motivated you to want to get into, let's just say, police service? And do you think those factors are still there for someone coming in now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we both did the internship at the police department in high school. I don't think that there was a reason that we necessarily. I think that the biggest thing was, it's like we've been naturally always wanting to help. Like,
Sure.
It's always been like, what can we do to help our community?
Well, that's the whole idea, right? Protect and serve.
We were both in Civil Air Patrol growing up.
Okay.
Which is the Air Force Auxiliary.
Gotcha.
Which means
Semper Vigilans, or however you say it.
Which is not even close. Thank me for my service, right? But
you're welcome.
Listen, I was a cadet major. Okay, that was a big deal back then.
I say salute them.
Yeah, render me my salute, damn it. But no, I don't know. We both come from backgrounds where the idea is to help, and do our part. And we're also kind of like, I feel like we're both undiagnosed ADD, because it's constantly like, how do we do more?
Right.
Like,
can't sit behind a desk.
Yeah, when you just sit there, it's like you're rotting to guys like us. So it's like, the second we got out of high school, we both, he joined the fire department, and then I was, my father was a deputy fire chief. My grandfather was a step grandfather technically was the fire chief of the same city. And so I became a firefighter naturally. Which, Ty helped me out with big
blind firefighter.
Yeah, I was a funny one. So he needed glasses. So he's gotten corrective.
Yeah,
he's got lazy so far.
Yeah,
but so we'd be doing these trainings and these drills in the bay, right? We'd pull all the engines out, pull all the rescue trucks out, and the tankers, tenders, not tankers. If you call for a tanker, you're gonna get a plane. That's what the chief would always say. Pull them out of the bay, and we'd fill it with fake smoke, and you got to put your mask.
Simulate going through a burning building.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when you put the mask on with your SCBA, you can't really have your glasses on or anything.
Sure.
So you had to run a hose from one end of the bay all the way to the other, and then you'd have to drag it back, and then run it back all the way. And on each end of the bay, there's doors, right?
Okay.
The big
and those doors are shut, right, to keep the smoke in. Okay. So this goofy ass is running blind, and he'd grab the end of the hose and he'd run, and he couldn't. I mean,
it was blurry. On top of being filled with smoke.
I was saying you're filled with smoke, but the poor guy can't see 2 feet in front of him anyways. So it didn't really help. He would just run right into the bay.
My partner didn't help me out.
Well, I did after the first few times. I just had to have my fun.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I know you can only do so much for everyone else, right? That's too funny. I mean, this isn't really super closely related, but I waited tables for a while when I lived in Boston. I was working at P.F. Chang's, and I swear to God, a week into starting the job, I lost my glass. This is the same replacement pair that I've had for like a decade since then. But I never got any sort of corrective edit, so I needed these. I didn't have a backup pair, so I was just subsisting on so waiting tables, and I don't have my glasses for like the first time in my life since second grade. And so for one, I can't read the friggin' chicken scratch of my, so the plus there is you learn to memorize orders really quick,
Right.
which looks good. You get tips off of that. But the other thing, what that meant was whenever I had to check someone's ID, if someone's ordering alcohol, they look younger, whatever, the process would be asking for their license, receiving a piece of plastic,
Right.
staring at that piece of plastic for 3 seconds, receiving precisely 0 information from that card, handing it back, saying thank you very much, and bringing them out their drinks. Like
Looks
that,
about right.
that's how that went for a solid 2 years. The only one I couldn't get away with was we would get tourists, and this guy, I swear to God, handed a South Korean passport in Korean and pointed to one line and said, "That's my birthday." I was like, I can't. Like, I can do a lot. I can go a pretty long way. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's too much for me.
I don't know what it says. I'm sorry. I can't even fake it. I don't read that language. I'm sorry, but
So
anyway,
I think a good way for us to wrap this episode up is going to be to discuss some of the legal changes that I think people should care about.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to surveillance laws in this country.
Interesting.
You mean you didn't vote for the Patriot Act?
Well, that's a great way to start this last segment off. The Patriot Act. How many?
I need to do more research. I need to actually learn.
How many bad guys have been caught by it?
Well,
They tell us, all the things we don't know about, the things that they started.
Right, but realistically,
yeah,
I'm all for us surveilling foreign nationals and making sure that we're good to go.
Yeah.
But something to me, especially after all this stuff came out, where intelligence agencies can tap into
Snowden.
They can tap into your TV and activate the speakers to become microphones. I feel like that's not a healthy way for the government to keep tabs on its people.
I think the real question should be, were they doing this a lot more before they told us,
sure,
hey, we're going to do this and that. And the way Snowden made it sound when Snowden leaked all this stuff, I think it was like 2012, maybe. Don't quote me on that.
WikiLeaks and all that.
Yeah, and that whole debacle, like, is it one of those things where they were doing that way before they mentioned it after 9/11, and they were like, hey, let's try to market this to the public and let's see if they'll fall for it.
Well,
and they're like, holy shit, they ate that shit up and they believed it. They're going to let us do it. And next thing you know,
right.
You know what I mean?
I just have an issue because it's like we're getting to the point where, we have the First Amendment, right? We have freedom of speech. We have all that. But I see more and more people getting canceled, and I mean, hopefully we don't get canceled for this first episode at this point, And I think that we've been pretty PC.
Yeah. We made it this far,
but at the same time, it's just it gets to the point where when you can no longer have the conversation, how do you have the conversation?
Right.
How do you progress from there
when certain topics are off limits?
Yeah, and guess what? You're not entitled to anything except for getting your feelings hurt. That's how life goes. And it's unfortunate. I wish that wasn't the case, but you're gonna throughout the course of your life have your feelings, get
right. And you aren't right. You're not protected. You're not entitled to go through your life avoiding that.
Right.
Like I could go and but I could go off on just the whole safe space. Like you are not entitled to a safe space.
No.
In any sense of the word.
world is a scary place and terrible things happen. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish there was a way we could put bubble wrap on everything, but we just can't. And the whole saying, my rights don't end where your feelings begin.
Right, sure. Hey,
I think that's a kind of rudimentary way to put it.
It used to be the simplest. What happened to sticks and stones, break my bones, names will never hurt. You know what I mean? Like that. When I was a kid, it was like, yeah, okay, they want to call you a doofus. Screw them,
Going back to school, after graduating high school and running into a teacher years later at a restaurant and talking about how, I got a detention for looking the wrong way.
Oh my God.
And now you threaten a detention with a kid? Oh my God, you're the bad guy. And it's like, geez.
What was the worst trouble that you got in school?
I got one detention.
That's it?
You never got suspended, but it was bad. So because I was always the good kid and I got good grades. I don't know if I've even ever told this story. I was in middle school, I want to say 7th grade, and I'm sitting in history class, and my friend group, we kind of the outcasts, all the kids that didn't have another friend group, we kind of coalesced around each other.
Yeah.
But even it feels terrible to say, even within that group, 7 or 8 of us, like really close knit, there was still one kid within that group that the rest of us were like, listen, I don't like him. You know what I mean? Like, we were all like, what's he doing here?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting next to this kid in class, and all it was he wanted to know if I could tag along with him to something after school that day. And I kept telling him no, because I couldn't. My family, we were doing some Bible something. I don't know. I used to be a church kid. And he just was unrelenting.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I just went from 0 to 60 real quick. I'm not like, I remember what happened. I don't know how I did this, but I literally, after telling him no, like 3 or 4 times, I just backhanded him in the gut. Like, I just, like, sitting in the middle of class, I was like, dude, and I just wound up and I just smacked him.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I don't know if I really got him that hard, but he started crying. So obviously that's very problematic. So I got a detention for that.
That's way less than
Mr. McMillan, I'm sorry for that you had to deal with that. I'm sorry for putting.
I used to walk home with these 2 girls. I'm not going to use their names.
I'm not going to mention it,
but
either. Yeah,
they lived down the street from me, and I went to school just up the street from here, and so I'd walk home, and we'd always be hanging out and talking together and all that stuff. And this is like elementary school. We're talking like 4th grade, 5th grade.
Yeah.
And there was this kid that he'd ride his bike home from school, the bikers versus the walkers. And he must have thought that they were cute, because he'd always hit him with his handlebars or whatever. And I got ticked off. And, one day I'm walking back home, and there was this little metal pipe on the side of the sidewalk, and I grabbed it and I stuffed it in his front spoke. And, it went his front spoke. So when I come up to the forks, he went over the front of the handlebars and scraped his knee up. His mom came to the house screaming, "I know your son from the lower elementary school," which is funny because we moved here. I never went to that school. So she was talking about some other kid with the same name, apparently, as me, saying I was this terrible person and stuff. Anyways, I think that's a good place for us to leave it.
Sure.
Well, we'd like to thank you guys for tuning in for this episode.
I'm impressed. We made it an hour. I honestly wasn't sure.
I told you it wouldn't be that hard.
We made it happen.
But 3 dudes talk.
Exactly. This was Working Theory. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And
share it with your uncle. He'll love it.
Yes. Yeah, your uncle will love it. And comment below any ideas or potential guests or anything that you guys might have or that you want to see, topics, anything. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Thanks, guys.